hopefully everyone's doing good. I've been watching stuff on this general that's most likely killed, that has had, know all these secrets about UFOs and stuff like that. Um, and I want to see what Ross Coulthart has to say. Now, I know people that have been around bases and um, re-engineering stuff like that, UFOs, ET technology, stuff like that. And I remember back in the day um, that if they thought that you were going to say something, you're going to leak secrets out. If you're going to whistle blow, or say, which back then they didn't have whistleblower type of thing for people, then they would kill you. Lots of people have been killed for um, wanting to divulge secrets about what the U.S. government has on UFOs and extraterrestrial tech, or magic is what I call it. But anyways, I want to get to this here.
A lot of ill-informed commentary speculating that it's all nonsense and there's nothing to this. He lost his clearances in 2013 when he...
Earl McCasland, for lack of a better description, not bigger.
This is, by the way, Ashley Banfield. Drop dead serious. Again, I've had my own experiences with UFOs. I know a lot about this stuff, more than most people do, because of paranormal and everything. So my whole life has been the paranormal and stuff. So anyways, it's crazy how they're making money off of stuff that people like me experience a lot. So anyways.
Look, Ashley, it's a very complex issue why General McCasland is such an important figure in not just national security, but especially the UAP mystery, the mystery of unidentified anomalous phenomena. I noticed there's been a lot of ill-informed commentary speculating that it's all nonsense and there's nothing to this. He lost his clearances in 2013 when he left the Air Force. He couldn't possibly know anything now that would be useful, and all the UFO stuff is just specious nonsense. That is not the case. General Neil McCasland was recorded in leaks that were leaked by the Russian GRU, where they tapped in to the private Gmail of John Podesta.
I gotta say, to some retards, they're gonna say, hey, that's what Russian intelligence would say. They're gonna make up lies. And I gotta say to people like that, shut the fuck up. I've gotten a lot of classified stuff that I used to have from Russia after the Berlin Wall fell and stuff. There's a lot of documents that were opened up to the public, and the Russians ain't gonna lie about that stuff. They don't. They could say the same about us as well, and everything. But yeah, that's something, because they know about our generals what they know. We know about their generals what they know. And sometimes we even share stuff. It's crazy how world governments actually share intelligence on UFOs and extraterrestrials, magic, stuff like that and everything.
John Podesta was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager in the years running up to the 2016 election. And as you would remember, Ashley, back then, everybody thought Trump had an ice cube's chance in hell of winning against Hillary Clinton. She was seen as a dead cert, rightly or wrongly. And a lot of the people in the Pentagon who've been protecting what I think is one of the biggest secrets in human history, the mystery of non-human intelligence engaging with this planet, they knew the game was up. And so a covert liaison began between John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, and people like Robert Weiss, the chief executive of Skunk Works at Lockheed Martin. General Michael Carey, a former very senior US Air Force Space Command general. And
I also have to put for legal, this is fair use. I've also put my own content, and unlike these guys, I actually have real experiences my whole life. So I know quite a bit more about this stuff than they do, different experiences and everything. So there's that.
And General Neil McCasland. And, believe it or not, Tom DeLonge, the lead singer of Blink-182, the rock band. Why on earth was this disparate group of people meeting? Well, the leaked emails that were eventually posted on WikiLeaks through the GRU, Russian military intelligence, they show that for many months prior to the election, there was an ongoing conversation between General Neil McCasland and all of these people about UAP disclosure, about
UFO
revealing
idiots.
the existence of a non-human intelligence engaging with this planet. This is why a lot of people who are saying there's nothing to this have no idea what they're talking about. And it really shocks me that one of the things we forget is our history, and if we forget our history, we forget the real story. General Neil McCasland isn't just one of the most senior generals in the US military, now retired. He's somebody who was cleared to the very highest levels of some of our deepest, darkest and most important national security secrets. He was for a while in charge of all SAPs, Special Access Programs. He was the liaison who handled the administration of SAPs, which is essentially America's deepest, darkest secrets. He then went on until 2013 to be the commander of the US Air Force's research laboratories at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And it's Wright-Patterson Air Force Base where most of the military's secret investigations into weaponry, aerospace, new technologies, new propulsion systems are done. It's a massive facility with extensive underground structures. General Neil McCasland ran the whole joint. Now, sadly, I feel terribly for his wife, Susan. She's spoken publicly and issued a statement, and she's obviously distressed by the speculation that Neil McCasland might have been abducted or kidnapped or taken by potentially some foreign adversary power, or maybe...
You dumbass, don't even say that. You stupid idiot. It would have been our own government, you idiot. Stop. These fools, these idiots, I swear to God, they piss me off. Where even some people that worked on UFOs, they're from the military-industrial complex, and they'll put out misinformation and say this is foreign technology. It's not even technology; it's magic stuff. A lot of stuff is, and how to use these vehicles, almost like telepathy. You have to have some psychic abilities, stuff like that. A lot of times, and it's our own government that kills our own people. Like I said, we have a lot of criminals that are running our government and stuff like that. Whether people like to hear it or not, that's the truth. We just have a lot of bad people. People have been killed. A lot of people have been killed for try to get evidence, put it out to the public, and it's not for government. Stupid.
Some private military contractor that doesn't want him to talk about something, and she's concerned that there's excessive speculation that because of his past employment in the Air Force, it might lead to an over speculation that he knows something now. The simple fact is, he does.
Yeah.
General Neil McCasland has some of the biggest secrets in his head, not just about the UFO UAP mystery. You can put that aside for one moment. He's cleared to top secret compartmented levels up to 2013 on secrets that still persist to this day about American weaponry, technology, space weapons, but also, and this is proven in these leaked emails from WikiLeaks, also the UAP mystery. And it was
UFO.
incredibly Tom DeLonge, the lead singer of Blink-182, who went into detail about what General Neil McCaslin admitted he knew because of his privileged information as a senior US Air Force general. He told Tom DeLonge that during the Cold War, the United States found a life form, an alien life form, and that he retrieved and oversaw the retrieval of alien spacecraft. This is a reality. It's not idle speculation.
Well, the thing is, it wasn't just one body. We've had lots of alien bodies, lots of them, and we work with ETs. Right now, as we're speaking, we're working with them and stuff. So,
is a truth admitted by a senior Pentagon general to, believe it or not, incredibly, you couldn't write this as a movie, a rock star who was fascinated in UFOs.
Well, lest anybody think it's just a rock star, he's also a documentary producer and he's doing projects, of that ilk. So it's not just he reached out to a rock musician. There was more to it. Well, I'm curious though about General McCaslin's interactions with the U.S. government, whether there had been a lot of plans for him to testify at any point, whether he'd made overtures that we know of. What do you know about his background and what he wanted to do, or what maybe the government wanted him to do or not?
Okay, we do know that barely a few weeks prior to General Neil McCaslin's disappearance on February the 27th, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, made a promise. He made that promise on social media, on Truth Social. He didn't yet make it as an executive order, but what he pledged was that he would declassify the UAP files, including files on extraterrestrial life. In any other context, this would be treated as an extraordinary...
Now, this is one thing Obama said. He said that we have ETs, we've had ETs that they've been here and stuff like that. When they questioned Trump about it, he said, oh, he's not supposed to talk about that. He'd get big trouble. That's classified. And I don't know. I mean, people like me have always known that ETs have been here. I have my own UFO experiences, a lot of UFO experiences myself. I have, I put some video out of that and stuff, and have some people I talk with about this stuff and everything. My father and other people that have worked on classified programs, Star Wars, whether it's F-117B2 or be that secret sites and stuff like that. It's just, for me, I've always felt like people are retarded if they don't know that UFOs are real, because people like us, we see these things a lot, and we're around the paranormal in everything, So it's just that the reason why I get pissed off, so the reason I get triggered, is because people used to always attack me. I have religious people used to attack me. People always made fun of me and stuff like that. So there's a reason why I get pissed off triggered about certain things. It's just a lot of people are also put in mental institutions for stuff, experiences, because they don't have people to talk to about this stuff back when, and if it wasn't for my father and other people say, hey, this stuff could be real, I'd be in a mental institution, I'd be dead right now. You don't last in a mental institution long.
Ordinary news story, but there is some kind of mental block at the moment in so much of the legacy news media. They failed to pick up on the enormous significance of what Donald Trump was signalling. President Trump has been briefed. I know he's been briefed.
I know, yeah.
Very limited briefing, but he's certainly apprised now of the existence of a non-human intelligence engaging with this planet. He knows that his Pentagon has been...
The thing about Donald Trump is what they were about minerals. Trump is obsessed with getting certain minerals in different countries or even taking other countries because of minerals that they have, is that this is used as energy. What's in these rocks, uranium or whatever, in these rocks, around the world, whether it's Ukraine, Greenland, or if it's Venezuela or whatever. There's a reason why he's obsessed with these minerals. And you talk about special access programs, UFOs that, I've heard of stories from people working around, classified stuff where they said that UFOs are draining uranium off of the rocks in places like New Mexico. They're draining the rocks and everything for energy. And Trump sees a lot of stuff as making money. Special access programs, UFOs. They want to keep a lot of that secret because they're making money off of keeping the stuff a secret. And so, I mean, there is a lot of criminal activity that goes with this stuff. You have human trafficking that is happening with this.
Flat out lying to the American public for much of the last 70, 80 years. And for me as a journalist, it was a huge leap to realise that this was the case. I've been raised with an expectation that America is one of the great moral leaders of the world, that it's essentially protected us.
We are the biggest two-faced country in the world, the U.S. is. What we're doing, keeping UFOs and ETs a secret, and having human trafficking and getting kids and other people that have psionic, telepathic, psychic abilities and using them as weapons, weaponizing them or bringing UFOs down. That's very illegal. It's like us being the cartels in a way. You have contractors acting like cartels where they're willing to kill the other contracting company to get that technology. I've heard from some of these whistleblowers and stuff, and we're no better than any other country. It's just
from tyranny and authoritarian rule for the last 80 plus years since the end of World War II, we look to America for moral leadership. And what shocked me as an investigative journalist getting into this subject matter was to realise that the truth was vastly different from that represented by the US Defence Department. The public has been lied to, and President Trump realised this. And the interesting thing is, what's happening at the moment is Trump has very slowly started indicating that he's willing to pull back the layers, to show the public what the deep state, and this does fit with his moral narrative, that there's this deep state that has been withholding information from the American public, and indeed, he believes, trying to undermine his authority and his potential leadership. So for him, there's a motivation in revealing what he knows. Now, I got told by people very close to the Trump camp,
don't trust Trump too much. I voted for him, but there's a lot of stuff that I hate about him. He steps one way, he takes two steps back. He says one thing, does another. He can be very two-faced about a lot of stuff and everything. So do not be stupid. Do not put your whole trust in them. Including what's happening with Iran and stuff. So
that in his first administration, he was going to make a disclosure about UAPs.
And what happened?
He got scared. I'm sorry to have to say this about the most powerful person in the world, but the Commander-in-Chief of the US military was scared of his own government. He became aware that there are forces inside the US government that frankly would and have killed to protect this secret. And he wasn't entirely confident that he could feel safe in making a statement at the time about what he knows.
So many people would say That's impossible.
I
Donald
know.
Trump feels as though he's omnipotent at this point, given all of the actions that he's taken recently by executive action, going to war without
Sure.
Congress, etc. What kind of people would
Well,
have any kind of threat?
the thing is, when it's intelligence that's after you, like with JFK, RFK, is stuff when you have national security advisors and the CIA. I mean, with JFK, it's the mob, national security advisors, the CIA, and law enforcement. Also, Houston police also were keeping secrets. You had all these different organizations that were in on what happened. That there's a huge cover-up. When it comes to the government, and if you look at Epstein and how people have gotten away with murder, the thing is, there's a two-tiered system for justice. If we do something, the citizens do something, we're going to jail or prison. We can also get federal charges. But if it's the government, they can get away with murder. They get away with murder all the time and everything. Committing felonies, certain amount of felonies each day and everything. So the biggest criminals are those in governments around the world. They get away with murder all the time.
Power over the president.
For quite some time, there has been a warning in America, and it goes right back to President Eisenhower's speech when he left office. And if you remember, he talked about a military-industrial complex that was out of control. And that was quite something from the man who'd led America to victory in World War II. President Eisenhower, in one of the last statements that he made as the President of the United States, warned the American public that he was concerned that there was a military-industrial complex that was actually getting out of control. What I've been investigating for much of the last 8 years, and every time I start digging, I find more and more to substantiate this view, is that there is a private military contractor industrial complex that is completely out of control. A lot of what is going on in America at the moment is due to the fact that trillions of dollars have been expended on expenditure that is being kept secret from the American public. This isn't something that's been concealed, the fact of this expenditure. You might remember that prior to 9/11, Donald Rumsfeld, the Defense Secretary, actually admitted that there were trillions of dollars that couldn't be accounted for in the defense budget. There are people like Catherine Austin Fitts, a former very senior government official, who's admitted that when she did audits, there were vast amounts of US defense expenditure that could not be accounted for. Frankly,
Anything more than usual, though, Ross? I mean, in every war that I've ever covered, there's always been, the missing bags and bags of money. And when I say bags, I mean millions and millions. It's not out of the ordinary for war.
No, it is. The level of money we're talking about here is billions and trillions of dollars. And one of the things I've been doing is investigating claims that, for example, private military contractors have been involved in the retrieval of non-human technology, that they were seeded technology that was originally being held by the Department of Energy and the Department of Defense that was retrieved from places like Roswell in 1947, Kingman, Aztec, a whole series of alleged crashes, some of which have actually surfaced into popular mythology, but which have been successfully suppressed with disinformation by a very, very clever strategy of disinformation and psychological operations run by the government and by private contractors. But what has been going on is a lot of what America knows about the UAP mystery has been privatized. It's gone into the private world. And I know that there have been literally blue-on-blue confrontations where American troops under the command of JSOC were actually sent to retrieve a craft, an object that crashed, I think it was in Mexico, and in the course of their attempted retrieval, US Special Forces soldiers were killed or wounded by private military contractors who were trying to protect what was allegedly their technology.
Yeah, this is true. People ain't can believe this, but it's true. And it's crazy that our own contractors, operating outside of government. Like I said, the biggest criminals that we have are in our government. It's not the guy on the street that's killing a few people or whatever, a guy that's doing a robbery at the liquor store at 7-Eleven or something. The worst criminals that we have are in our government, these contractors. And like I said, there's human trafficking going on. This is cartel type violence and stuff with these contracting departments. With these special access programs, UFO programs, everybody wants the technology, or what I call magic, because it's not technology. A lot of it's magic, where you go to the stars with this stuff that we have. We've had the ability to do that for decades, for at least 60 years. And as one guy in Skunkworks has said this, we have the ability to bring ET home already and everything. So you have contractors that are willing to kill other people from another contracting U.S. company, or even special forces and stuff, or plain military that, I've done video on, back, in Indonesia and stuff. So it's crazy.
And this is how absurd it's got, that this ridiculous Cold War has been going on between the Russians, the Chinese, and the Americans. There's been so much secrecy now about this legacy program involving the retrieval of non-human technology. Not only are we in competition with the Russians and Chinese over it, there are battles, in some cases deaths, where people have been killed in an effort to protect and retrieve this technology. That's how serious this is. I've spoken to people who say that people have been murdered to protect this secret. Now, this is what we've been trying to get Congress to investigate, but sadly, Congress has shown that it's completely ineffectual and very much in the thrall of many of these private military contractors that exercise such an undue influence in the Congress.
So obviously that brings the conversation back to General McCaslin, because there are so many potential theories as to what might have happened. And I want to go back to his wife for a moment, because I feel as though if anybody knows that General McCaslin might have been a target, it might be his wife. And she's the one person who seems to be throwing cold water on the possibility that there could be something very nefarious afoot because of his background. One of the things that she said recently, and this is a direct quote from her, which I found to be surprising, and I wanted to get your reaction. She was frustrated with some of the theorizing on who may have taken him and for what reason, and she said this, quote, "Maybe the best hypothesis is that aliens beamed him up to the mothership. However, no sightings of a mothership hovering above the Sandia Mountains have been reported." Obviously very tongue-in-cheek during a very serious time. What's your reaction to that?
I was surprised that Susan Wilkerson said that.
Are you trying to make this out to be a joke? I mean, hey, for all you know, when I see UFOs out here and stuff, I do want to be taken away myself. I've asked them to take me from here because I don't like, where I am in life. I've asked them to do that, take me as well. Hasn't happened. I'm not that special, unfortunately. But thing is, that's the worst thing that you can say, because it makes it out, his disappearance to be a joke. And I'm dead sure I get more of a feeling of what happened to this guy than Nancy Guthrie. Nancy Guthrie, she just disappeared from the face of the earth. And it's like, where is she? I think it's like, where is she? It's like, dude. With these, I know, you know that he was most likely killed. Because that's what we've been doing. Even one of the guys, at 1947 Roswell crash, they told him, we got dogs here, we'll have you, killed, chewed, eaten out, put in the middle of the desert. Nobody will know what happened to you if you talk about it.
Susan's a former lieutenant colonel, or maybe still a serving lieutenant colonel in the US Air Force, and a former astronaut trainee. So she would know. I mean, I don't know if she was as cleared as highly as her husband was. I know a lot of these people, most of them are men, when they talk to their families, in order to protect their families, they keep secrets. They don't share with their wives. So it's very likely, I think, that she's completely unaware of what Neil was involved in, particularly with Lockheed Martin, fellow
Yeah, my father's at Lockheed Martin, and I got to talk with people down around some of these special access programs and stuff like that. Not only for, but there's like a club where if you live where I do, and chances were back in the 80s and 90s, where some of us, we knew that our fathers were working at secret installations. And so we talk about UFOs, and so much so that, you know, in one college class, this guy said, "Hey, you guys can't talk about that. That's classified." It's like, what the fuck? We're in a compartmentalized area. We're not talking to, you know, civilians about this. We're civilians. You know, we don't have to keep things secret, and it's just between us and everything. And so it's like we knew what was going on. My father, you know, he got cancer from chemicals, doing some secret, you know, stuff, and they kept secrets to their graves. Me, I said, I told my father, if I was you, I'd say fuck the U.S. government, because they don't have our troops backs. They don't have, you know, our backs. And if they don't have our backs, we sure as fuck shouldn't have their backs. It has to be both ways. And they don't care if people get cancer. You talk also about Agent Orange, Vietnam, and other stuff, how the government has always gotten away with all kinds of stuff. Gulf War sickness, all kinds of stuff. I told my father, because my father went through a lot of shit, you know, with chemicals and doing secret stuff. He was shaky all the time. He couldn't hardly do anything straight. It's just, that's why I kill those guys, just got from what they've done to some of them. It's just, I bet you, I said, I'm not saying, you know what I mean? But
generals and John Podesta in the run-up to the 2016 election. I think she probably knows, because of the leaked emails, that he was in communication with the White House. Podesta, of course, was a former Obama senior policy advisor. Very, very highly connected Democrat, with great connections at the highest levels of the Democratic Party. And what we're talking about here is something that she may not simply be aware of. I know.
Although if I'm aware of as much as I'm aware, clearly she would be, she'd be far more informed about this.
Well,
and I just also wonder, just his background alone, it just screams there's a possibility.
No, it's not true. This is my experiences from my father and others I know that have worked on these special access programs. My dad never talked about all the secret stuff to my mother. She told me that as well. There are certain things, you know, like his health, what it did to his health and everything. But listen, it's almost like the mom with Omerta and stuff like that, but it's a lot more so, where you don't talk about it. You never do. It's like, being a patriot, if you're a patriot, you believe in your country, if you're, you know, taku gung ho for your country, you don't talk about it. You know, it's part of being a patriot. And they brainwash people with this BS and everything. And it's like, well, what about us? You know, with our gay counts or everything. What about you? You know, helping us out. And it's a one-way street and everything. And so, thing is, No, they're not going to tell their whole family about that. They go to their graves with that stuff. If you're thinking that, you don't know. You don't know. Okay? They should. They should let all, but that's a felony. That's 25 years to life in prison. At least it was. Or if you talked about this stuff, and my father said it, hey, you talk about this stuff, that's 25 years. You're talking about other stuff, that's an ad charge of 25 years to life. So there's a reason why why people are not all talking about it. That's a federal offense. Not state, not local, federal offense.
Why would she be so anathema? Why would it be so anathema to her?
Well, look, I think nobody wants to think about the possibility that your husband may have been taken by someone unfriendly. At the moment, by the way, I should emphasise, there's been no official statement that Neil McCaslin has been taken, abducted. Right. The official story at the moment is that he's perhaps in some way incapacitated, and that he's got lost on a trail somewhere around the running trails of Albuquerque. I have to say, frankly, that makes no sense after 12, 13 days. If he did go on a running trail, he would have been found by now. I've seen reports from Susan Wilkerson, his wife.
Listen, talk about Missy. You got Nancy Guthrie and stuff. With her, like I said, and there have been people, celebrities I know of, that I can remote view, and I can see how they're doing. Nancy Guthrie, for me, is just like, boom, disappeared. This general I got more of a sense with and everything, and I don't know what generation has seen this, but I remember Unsolved Mysteries would have stories, okay, where people were gonna put out, secrets about UFOs. Men in Black would show up. They would stop time, and everything, and I get chills just talking about this. But people would disappear. People would end up in a car accident. People would, for some reason, commit suicide. That's very convenient. People end up dead, or they just disappear. And I remember people in the military say, to people, like, you talk about this, and where I live, they say, hey, we can put you out in the desert. Nobody will ever find you. We can just take you, kill you, no one know what happened.
Wife that he left his watch at home, which is unusual for a runner. Most runners want to monitor their heart rate and their pace.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem right. He also left his phone at home. And more importantly, she also couldn't account for what shoes he was allegedly wearing at the time. There's a lot of question marks, frankly, about the whole argument, the whole claim that he would have gone missing on a running trail. We don't know.
Hey, listen.
We don't know that he did.
Right, we don't. But I'll tell you what. On occasion, I'm a runner, not often, but there is no way that I would go to a trail without a watch or a phone or some communication, especially if there's a trail that has a danger where there's a falling, risk. I just feel that anybody who's been around the block a few times, like me, and certainly at 68, I think, years old, he's been around the block, would ever do something that risky without some sort of location device or communication device. It just doesn't match the smell.
Holy shit, he knew this was going to happen. He knew something was going to happen. Did you guys see this? He left stuff behind for a reason. Now, I hate to go to the mob with this, but I remember one case. This mobster let in a guy from the FBI, right? And they thought that the guy was a real mobster, and said he's working for the FBI. And I don't know, people like me would have known better because he couldn't bring enough evidence. But anyways, after the fallout, when they found out the guy's working with the FBI, the guy, he knew that they were going to kill him because he got all these people busted in the mob, right? And when he got the call, at a restaurant and stuff, he took off his watch, took off his rings, put them down. He told the lady or whatever, it's like, here, if I don't come back, give these to my wife. He said, I don't think I'm coming back. And indeed, he didn't come back. They killed him. And this has some parallels to that. Like he knew something's going to happen. It's almost like I can see it. Like he's just like, he's taking his stuff off, and it's like this is almost like a mob hit. It feels like, in a way. You don't take that stuff off that he did, and leave it unless you know something bad's going to happen. You leave that there for your wife. You leave some keepsakes for your loved one, right? It's like, here, if something happens to me, they can have that. Boy.
Smell test.
Look, I agree with you. And look, I don't want to distress Susan Wilkerson. It must be terrible to be losing your loved one and wondering
Agreed.
where the hell he is. And I sincerely hope that General McCasland is found soon. And frankly, I do hope that the simple explanation is that he just got lost, or that there's been some medical misadventure. No. And I sincerely hope he's soon reunited with his family. Frankly, as each day goes by, I think we increasingly have to look at the possibility of foul play. And the fact that the FBI is now more overtly involved, that we've got people from Kirtland Air Force Base now engaged.
Let me tell you about how dangerous it is for these people. They're going to know, and if they feel someone's going to talk, it doesn't matter if they're the FBI. They could end up dead. I've had people I know of in the government that was hired in the FBI, and they said, we'll kill you if you talk about this stuff. They'll end up dead. We've had president that's ended up dead for different types of reasons as well. And nobody is above this. We have a lot of, criminal elements operating at the highest levels in the darkest areas, secret programs. And it's like a cartel. These are like cartels. The mafia doesn't do the same type of stuff that cartels would do. That's how dangerous this is.
Local sheriff is now talking about securing the video cameras from people's homes, means that the search is now intensifying. They're now looking at alternative explanations as to what possibly happened. I've had people contact me in the security industry who knew General Neil McCasland, who tell me that they're not happy with the original status of the FBI investigation, that they felt that the FBI was doing a very, very half-hearted investigation. Sure. There was a lot of talk.
This is the thing, is that the truth probably won't come out except for with people like us that know that people like him do get killed if they're ready to talk, if they are scared that they are going to talk, if they're in a whistle blow. They know too much. They're too dangerous. And like I said, these contractors, defense contractors, and in these special access programs, they will kill you. And if the FBI gets evidence on certain things, they can threaten people in the FBI. They can go after Cash Patel. They can go after Bongino. And they can say, stay out of this if you want to live. If you value your life, if you value your health and your family's life, and they will threaten your family. They do threaten your family. They say, hey, you like your wife? You like your kids? Look the other way. Get out here, turn around, don't look back. Because we'll kill you and your family. And I remember this happening in the 80s and 90s, stuff like that. It's not as bad as it used to, but obviously he pissed off somebody really, really dangerous that's still there and everything. And they're of the old mafia, old regime and stuff like that as well. And
Book, for example, that there'd been no mobile phone alert posted. I mean, one of the first things you do when somebody goes missing is you put their face out on a mobile phone alert in the area, inviting anyone with a mobile phone to look at the photograph and see whether that person's been seen anywhere in the vicinity.
Silver alert, which they've done, right? They put out the silver alert. I don't know how long it took them.
No, I don't think there's been the full mobile phone alert. It's been raised. There has been a silver alert, but I don't think there's been the level of notification that you would ordinarily see for somebody who's gone missing. I've spoken to people in the military who think that it is being underplayed by the government, the significance of General Neil McCaslin's disappearance. I don't want to suggest that there is necessarily a synchronicity between his past involvement in what was clearly a push for UAP disclosure, but certainly it's an interesting connection that he disappeared so soon.
Obviously, if they're killing, they're whacking him, he just disappears like that. This is usually what happens when they fear someone is going to talk. And he would not have taken off his watch for his wife or family and other items. You only do this when you fear you're not coming back. And a person's watch, like with my father, that's the most valuable item there is. The most valuable. The wife knows this. The family knows this. Okay, it's like having an heirloom, from, great grandfathers passed down heirloom. He was whacked. I think they should go. I mean,
after Donald Trump made his announcement that he was going to be transparent. It's also
do you think it's possible that his wife Susan may be downplaying this as part of any kind of strategy, that this isn't just her verbiage, that maybe there's guidance?
I've got no idea. I really don't know. I mean, it would be.
There's the second thing where it could be his wife that had him gone. You could also say that, but right now, with this stuff and the way he's been around, it could be his wife was up. He was whacked. He was killed. I've seen this way too many times.
Idle for me to speculate, and frankly, I wouldn't want to distress Susan. The terrible possibility here is that someone's taken him. And I sincerely hope it's not foreign adversary rivals. But I was distressed to see that Susan was suggesting that because his security classification ended in 2013 in the Air Force, he wouldn't be of much value now. Frankly, with the secrets that are locked up in General Neil McCaslin's head from his years of managing special access programs, there is absolutely no doubt at all that even this many years on, 10 years later, 10 years, 13 years later, he knows things that people would want to know. And so...
Well, the thing is, these programs are still ongoing today. And it's like to say that, well, that was just back then. That's not all true. You still could have a top secret clearance. You can still be talking with people, getting information. You can still be in the know. I'm in the know with some people and stuff, and I know what's going on. If I know what's going on, you damn straight a general, former general is going to notice. He has people he can talk to, get info, talk with, and everything. So, I mean, if I'm in the know with a lot of stuff, he knows a hell of a lot more stuff.
I don't want to be put in the position of taking an opposite view to Susan Wilkerson, and I respect and understand her deep emotion about losing her husband at this time. I sincerely hope she's reunited with him. But there are serious questions that need to be asked. I find the lack of an aggressive...
I don't like where she said, well, you could have been abducted by aliens. Because you're just playing off as a joke. And, you know, when a person says that, it's like, you automatically think that the wife could have had something to do with his disappearance. That's how bad of a joke it is. Even though he's been around top secret stuff that has had to do with extraterrestrials. You know, it's just, that's not funny. It's not funny whatsoever. It just makes me think that she could have something to do with it.
Official response in the very early days, quite puzzling. And a lot of his friends and colleagues are saying to me they really want questions asked about General Neil McCaslin's disappearance. To all of them, it's a serious mystery. This man is and was a very cautious human being. You quite rightly say he wouldn't have left the house without his phone and his watch. He was an extremely methodical, highly intelligent, extremely fit man. Just a week earlier, he'd cycled 60 miles. So the idea that he might have been so medically incapacitated...
I don't know. I hate to draw parallels with the mafia and the mob. But it's just... these things go together too. They fit together. Okay? They do this in the mob, you know, when they know their time is pretty much done. And stuff. They leave that for their family. And stuff. Of course, you're not supposed to use a cell phone. So they don't know who you're talking to, stuff like that. The phone, the government's listening into your phone all the time. And everything, right? So he left that watch there for his wife, loved ones, or whatever. He has the phone there because it sounds like in the mob they use somebody that you trust. Okay? You're not going to go with your enemy to the basement to talk with other mobsters where, you know, if you're in trouble, they're not going to have somebody you hate because you don't trust them. They're use somebody that you trust, okay, to pick you up and take you to, you know, a meeting, okay? And the parallels draw fit also with this, where he leaves his watch there. He leaves his phone there because he doesn't want it pinged